Every one of us has a story to tell. This month and season, I want to invite you to join us here at Bear Creek as we learn to tell our story. We're going to tell our story. And as we do that, we're going to look at two wonderful Bible stories. There's the story of Joseph and his brothers, and then the story of Ruth and Naomi. We're going to start with the story of Joseph and his brothers. And when we think about that story, we can't help but remember that Joseph made some choices in his life. And because of those choices, his life changed. But also, there were moments in his life where he didn't make any choice, but he was just kind of given things. We were all given a family in which we live. Not all of that family was great. Sometimes it was difficult, and other times there were beautiful moments in our families, beautiful relationships. Joseph lived in a family where there were favorites. His dad favored him above all the other brothers and gave him a multicolored coat. And because of that, there was so much tension in his family that you could almost predict something terrible was going to come of it. And it did. Today and this week, as we enter this story, I want to invite you to think about telling your story. Think about your own family of origin. What was your relationship like with your mom and your dad, with your brothers and sisters and siblings, if you had them? I've been reading a book, I read it about 10 years ago, in fact, called Storyline by Donald Miller. And this book helped me kind of plan the next 10 years of my life. In fact, because of this book, Cindy and I decided we were going to move out to Seattle from South Dakota. I want us to start thinking about the next 10 years of our lives, the next 10 years of our church life, and think about where we might go, about what kind of choices we might make, about what we already have inherited and how we might be able to grow from that inherited moment into something even greater, and to think about where God's placed in the middle of this. When I was in camp, and as a camp counselor, I often did a thing called family sculpting. We would have members of the campers come up, and they would take people and they'd place them on the stage in relationship with how their families were. If their mom and dads were close, they put those two family members close. If they were arguing or there was distance between them, they put distance there. And we created this, and then we were able to talk about it. And I want you to think about that exercise, that family sculpting exercise. Where would you place your mom and dad? And would they be far away or close? Where would you put your other siblings? And then where would you place yourself? And then I think one of the greatest questions is, and we always did this with our campers, where did they see God in the midst of their family? I hope as we study these two wonderful stories, and if we lay our stories right beside them, that we may find a God who is present, who is working, who is always making something new and hopeful happening. Join us this season as we get into the fall season here at Bear Creek for this wonderful time of telling our stories. I hope you can join us.